Good afternoon to everyone. So today my group 4 is going to be presenting Group 6, which is epistemology. My group members are Diana, Ignace, and Patricia. So without delaying, I'm going to enter Group 6 to explain. So today's topic is epistemology. So epistemology is one of the branch which is from the philosophical study. So without delaying, just move to definition of epistemology. So epistemology is the theory of knowledge. From the language aspect, it is derived from a combination of two Greek words. Epistema meaning science and logos meaning science or study. Epistemology is part of the main debate on philosophy as it's explained by the Lexion Webster Dictionary, the theory or study of the origin, nature, methods, and limits of knowledge. So basically, the philosophers, before they invented something as a knowledge, they asked, what is knowledge? What is really knowledge? So that's when the epistemology was born. And then epistemology can be understood as a science or philosophical study related to science or simply referred to as the theory of knowledge. Okay, philosophy means it derived from two Greek terms, which is a feeling of philo or sophos or sophy. Philo means like to love, while sophy means wisdom. So philo is so much of love, so much desire, and the one who will have to try to reach it, while Sophia is wisdom, cleverness, deep knowledge, or love of wisdom. Okay, moving on to knowledge. In Bahasa Malaysia, we call it as a ilmu. So the term science in the English dictionary is referred to as knowledge, and science translated into Malay as know, knowledge, and skill. So knowledge and skill is how to say, it can never be like separated from each other. When you have knowledge, you should have skills. Without both, we cannot do perfectly do something on a specific topic. So moving on to the etymologically, the word science comes from the Arabic word alima. And then knowledge is the connection between the one who know, subject, and the known, which is the object. Okay, science is a word derived from the Latin word science or scientia, which means knowledge. So basically, science means it's knowledge. According to the House Dictionary, science is a systematic knowledge that can be tested or proved to be true, a branch of knowledge based on material or mere fact. Okay, when you find a knowledge, you won't know whether it's true or not, or we won't know whether it's to be accepted or it is a true or not. So those philosophers back in those days, they did experiment, they get the result, and then they prove that the knowledge is true. That's when the term called science is applied. And then it's also defined as the knowledge gained through scientific methodology. So basically, like for example, if we do our project, final year project, of course we have to have like methodology. For example, if you want to example like Soxhlet extraction, uh, um, it's one of the methodologies that will be used in chemical engineering to get something as an output product. So same as that, before you prove knowledge it's true, you have to go through a methodology to prove people that it is really true. So moving on to next slide. Okay, next slide is about religion. Okay, religion, it's usually means trusting in God or supernatural force such as gods, as well as practices and institutions associated with the belief. Okay, a religion without God is nothing. So a term called God, like we have never seen God in our naked eyes, but we do believe that there is a supernatural power of us that keeping us to move to a better life. So that's what religion is mainly for. Okay, religion is a broader meaning which refers to a cohesive belief system, and this belief is about the divine aspect. For example, I take Hinduism as an example, because I'm a Hindu, so I quite have the knowledge about that. Okay, in Hinduism, we have this thing called moksha, where a person was done anything wrong, and then he fulfill the 7 lives in the mortal earth, and then he will surrender to God, and then he won't have another birth. In Hinduism, we have things called life after death, or we have another life, 7 births, something like that. So we have never experienced or something like that, but it is a roughly belief which from the divine aspect, which told by our ancestors, something like that. And then we move on to beliefs that involve only one person or usually not considered a religion. For example, atheism. Atheism is not a religion, and atheism is against religion. Instead, religion should involve a human community, and then religion is a social phenomenon that can be traced to phenomena such as prayer, worship, feasts, and ceremonies. Entities such as respect, love, or fear of supernatural power and pure understanding and cling toward religion. Okay, for an example, in Hinduism, we have Garuda Purana. Garuda Purana is something like a punishment for in life after death. So there's one person will take count of wrongdoings we are doing in the mortal earth. And then when we go to hell, we will have to go through hell. Obviously, we have to go through hell because we are not perfect. We have done any wrongs in our life. So based on the Garuda Purana, for example, Kumbhi Bhagam, Kandagvam, something like that, it's all the punishment. Like we have never experienced that, but it's the religion that teaching us love and fear towards something that is believed for centuries. And then statements such as spells, mantras, and sacred passages, as well as exotic material objects such as mosques, churches, charms, and trees are there in religion. Then another characteristic of religion is that it relates to the ethics of society. This means that religion is not only about the relationship between man and God, but also about man and man. For example, the term called karma. What goes around comes around. Okay, when we do good to a man, we will get back the good deed that we have done. If we do bad to a man, we will get the same bad thing done by another man. It's like what goes around comes around. And then people who do not believe in God and reject all religious beliefs are called as atheism. Atheism is like there's no rules and regulation in atheism. So people who call themselves as atheists, they have no like rules and regulation. They will do whatever they want in their life because they don't have this love of fear towards the God. And then moving on to the development of epistemology, the history of epistemology development in line with human development provides reflective systematic knowledge. Okay, there are 4 phases in the development of epistemology. The phase 1 is about ancient Greek in between 3rd century to 6th century, thinking about the knowledge was critical to knowledge known as mythology, world of the gods. And it is known by the emergence of philosophers who question the reality of the universe. Philosophers such as Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, and Pythagoras were later extended by Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. All 3 of them developed reflective systematic knowledge called philosophy. Okay, Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle is the father of philosophy because until now we are following what they have given in their way. So they are the 3 main people of philosophy. And for the phase 2, the Roman age is less marked by systematic knowledge, but it develops thinking about country, war, law, politics, peace, literature, and culture. So if you compare phase 1 and phase 2. In phase 1, they just discover what is philosophy, what is knowledge, what is God, what can we do to prove them. While in phase 2, they already improved already with the knowledge they passed by the philosophers. Though, so they started to have their own country, war, law, politics, and stuff like that. That's when the civilization happened.
Srini, are you?
Sorry, I faced some technical problem over here. Sorry for that. So among the current scientific figures are Stoa, Epicurus, and Plotinus. They are the philosophers in phase 2. Going on to phase 3, Middle Ages or the theological age, which is ages in between 6th to 15th century. The in, that's where there was an introduction to Christianity in Europe, brought a specific epistemology pattern. There is a meeting of supernatural knowledge with the rational, the natural, intellectual knowledge, faith, and science. So there has been a scholastic flow to this phase, which seeks to forge a systematic unity between the teachings of the religion, the Catholic Church. Okay, back in the during the phase 3, when the Christianity was born, the Catholic Church was the main hall for everything, like the politics, the religion stuff like that. This that, like that's the main place where everything will take place. And the intellectual, the unity between Hellenism, Greek and Roman, and Semitism, Christian religion. However, Semitism dominates all aspects of human, a century of darkness for the world of science. Among the casualties were Galileo Galilei. So, when the Semitism took over the politics that happens in the country and also the religion affairs and stuff like that, they really face the darker phase where everything happened is not in the based on the rules and regulations, and people were really suffered during that phase 3. Okay, major scholastic figures, which is Augustine. His books would be these Vete, like it's not in English, but his book was in Latin language. And Thomas Aquinas, his book was Summa Theologica. Europe was in the Dark Ages, but not so in the Arab world of Islam. Philosophers like Al-Kindi, Ibn Rushd, and Ibn Sina. Okay, when the Europe was in the dark phase, the Islamic state, which is the Arab, wasn't in a dark phase because they didn't want to accept what the vicinity did. I mean, like they followed their religion, which is giving knowledge limelight to the people. So the Islamic people didn't really face the dark phase. And then the attempt to bring the ancient Greek books, Aristotle, to Cordova was later relearned by the Europeans to give a rise to a new era. Okay, as far as I read, and before this, I took subject science and technology, where Islamic, how to say, Islamic religion people, like philosophers, they obviously didn't want their people to suffer. And then most of the nowadays we are learning Pythagoras theorem and stuff like that. And most of the things were derived from the Islamic scriptures written by the philosophers. So they were like stealing knowledge. Things were going on, but later on they after the phase 3, they came to a conclusion that like both Semitism and Islamic can share the knowledge, but they cannot steal it from them. And then moving on to phase 4, modern age, early century, life is no longer dominated by our Christianity, the Catholic Church. The modern age was preceded by the Renaissance, rebirth, and Enlightenment movements which enlightened humanity to its anatomy as an animal rational. And then humans determine their world order. And also it's marketed by the emergence of epistemological flows, including rationalism, empirism, criticism, idealism, positivism. Emerging culture, cries, and religious revolutions, ideological revolutions such as liberalism, socialism, materialism, political revolution, French Revolution, science revolution, industrial revolution, until World War One and World War Two. Contemporary century, the emergence of philosophical anxiety and absurdity. The emergence of new patterns of epistemology, phenomenology, existentialism, philosophy of life, pragmatism, neo-Marxism, and more critical theories. Okay, this century is also marked by the tendencies of anti-rationalism, anti-positivism, and anti-intelligence. Like this phase, they had but there is a good, there will be always a bad. Like one side, the people will say like Earth is in a circle shape, spherical shape. But meanwhile, there will be always a group saying that Earth is not in a sphere shape, but it's a flat. The Earth is flat. So those days, people also like that existed. So that's why we have this anti-positivism, intellectualism existed. So epistemology evolves with the development of science because in fact epistemology is an important and inherent part of human thinking in interpreting the world and its life. These interpretations are reflected in the ever-changing and ever-changing sciences. Okay, these are the impacts of epistemology on life. So it helps one to see the need in their own field. Okay, and then it also make people to understand the thinking patterns, ways and resources can change one's thinking path. Like there are always two paths in life. For example, the good path and the bad path. It's up to us to choose whether we want to go for the bad or for the bad. So for the good. So with the knowledge that we are having, we can choose what right for our life. That's what the epistemology is all about. And it also determines the progress of science and technology. Okay, moving on to the 6.2 subtopic, which is the methods and sources of knowledge acquisition. Okay, we can ask ourselves, why do we need knowledge? So the answer is knowledge is the most effective tool for building a community. No success and progress is achieved without knowledge. The excellence of the people and the building of civilization depends on the mastery of knowledge. Next, that's all from me. Next, I'll pass it to Diana.
Srini, I present the next 29. Hi, Miss. I will start briefing on various sources of knowledge. The purpose of this presentation is to lead to a better understanding of how we came to know what we know and how we can contribute to the various sources of knowledge. As you all know, knowledge plays an important role in lives. Every time we encounter new information or new situation, our understanding, evaluations, and responses are the result of everything we previously know, or all the knowledge we have already. The knowledge that we already have and all the new knowledge that we gain comes to us through some knowledge source. So here are the five most common sources of knowledge, which is uh, revelation and tradition, rational, inspiration and intuition, wisdom and personal experience. Slide. Okay. Source of knowledge between intellect and experience. There are two, a priori and a posteriori. A priori is like knowledge that is separate from our experience, memory, sensation, or what we have learned from others in known as priori knowledge. Like for an example, if a person believes in a God, they may also believe that this God has given the some innate knowledge, like a type of wisdom in their own mind, separate from what they learn what around. Another use of term of prior is for logical statement that we can reason a true. For instance, if I tell you that a person named Ellen is shorter than a person named Kyla, and Kyla is shorter than Matt, you can deduct that Ellen must be shorter than Matt. You don't have to meet any of these people to know. You just need to understand the relationship between each of them. Like for posterior, if if you say to me broccoli is green, you will probably feel fairly confident that this is something you know without question. When you consider how you know this, it's because you have seen broccoli or picture of broccoli, or I've been told I've been told by someone trust that broccoli is green. You knowing broccoli you knowing broccoli is green, let it be let you knowing broccoli is green is an example of posterior knowledge, which is simply knowledge based on experience. Next slide. Next slide. It's the same slide. Next slide. Shini. Okay. Slide number 32. Okay. Um, the component of knowledge that is sensation as a source of knowledge, like it's like the component of knowledge that is directly traceable to the operation of the senses. um, as commonly understood, sensing is the ability to respond to a certain stimuli on an automatic or preconscious level. As such, it makes knowledge possible, although in itself ignores nothing. So, like sensory receptors are specialized neurons that respond to specific types of stimuli. When sensory information is detected by sensory receptor, sensation has occurred. For example, light that enters the eye causes chemical changes in cell that line the back of the eye. These cells relay message in the form of action potential, like to the central nerve system. The conversion of the sensory stimulus energy to the action potential is known as transduction. Um, Hallucination, informal in the brain, such as dreams and more. Like hallucination are sensory experiences that appear real but are created by our mind. They can't affect all our five senses. For example, you might hear a voice that no one else in the room can hear, or see an image that isn't real. Like it's inaccurate perception or sensory misdirection are two terms that might be used to describe hallucination. Next slide. Intuition as a source of signs. It's like emotions, instinct, or feeling as a source of signs is like, for example, sensory awareness, conscience, cosines, instinct, internal ability, out of reach capability, or a capability that intuition will never match. And hunch. It means like, no, 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 it's like the researchers have defined institution as the influence of non-conscious emotional information from the body or the brain, such as intellectual feeling or sensation. The power of obtaining knowledge that cannot be acquired either by interference or observation by reason or experience. And the the previous slide explained, I'm talking about Srini. Okay. And hunch is a feeling or guess based on intuition rather than fact. For example, right, we can say, I have a hunch that someone is telling lies. Like that. So it's a feeling or guess based on intuition rather than fact. Next slide. Intelligence has a source of science. So it's like rationalism, the relationship between words and idea. According to Desiderius, he has stated that no solid claims about the real world. And thirdly, according to David Hume, he said emotional experience or empirism, like how something is present or information from the outside. A combination of information and concept is stated by Kant, the basis of scientific method. A scientific method is like a combination of information and reason. It is the best source of knowledge from a European perspective. Next slide. Revelation as the source of knowledge. The meaning is the knowledge that God has given to prophets and Apollos. Apollos are like someone who strongly supports a particular belief or political movement. The truth of revelation is absolute. The revelation is a major source or reference for Muslims. Revelation of information can be studied and proved rationally and empirically, such as the context of nature. There are some that cannot be studied or proved as some ayat, such as the news of heaven and hell, the spirit real, the substances of Allah Almighty. Slide 6. Revelation as the source of knowledge. And they ask you, Muhammad, about the soul, say, the soul is of the affair by Allah, and mankind have not been given of knowledge except a little. And if we viewed, we could surely do away with that which we reveal to you. Then you will not find yourself concerning it and advocate against us. Um, um, this one in Malay can be explained as like, maksudnya urusan memberi nyawa adalah urusan Tuhan, termasuk urusan ilmu, kerana ilmu adalah miliknya dan manusia hanya diberikan hanya sebahagian pengetahuan pengetahuan iaitu ilmu dibandingkan dengan ilmu Allah yang luas. And ayat 86 dimaksudnya Allah berkuasa untuk menghapuskan atau lenyapkan apa yang telah diberikan atau wahyukan kepada manusia, dan dengan penghapusan itu tak akan ada seorang pembela pun untuk manusia itu kecuali hanya dengan rahmat dari Tuhanmu. And the next slide is the hierarchy of knowledge. Hierarchy knowledge is a revealed knowledge. As example is value. Secondly, inspirational knowledge, which is ilham, intuition, and kashaf. Third one is rational knowledge, empirical knowledge, opportunity, um, up, and then the way to the purpose and reasons, good, good and wise people, inspiration, intelligent and gifted people, and special people. Next slide. Next slide is the differences between intelligent and inspiration. Next slide. Yes, this one. The differences between intellect and inspiration. Intellect is how much intelligence you have. Intellect is the mental equivalent of ability or fashion sense. So someone is an intellect if they have great intellectual ability, just as an athlete is someone who has great athletic ability. So intellect is something everyone has in some degree. So inductive and deductive method, objective and accessible to many, and can be described in words. While inspiration is a feeling of enthusiasm you can get from someone or something that gives you new or creative idea. If something or someone is the inspiration for a particular book, let's say, work of art or action, they are the source of ideas in it or act for a model for it. So inspiration is an experience of a form with experience, subjective and personal experience. It cannot accurately be described in words. Intuition and heuristics. Spontaneous power intuitions understand or acquire knowledge, which we get knowledge without conscious reasoning or defending. Intuition science scholars do not recognize this method as curing science knowledge, but intuition is still in the first method that provides insight and ideas. Many things are proven to be contrary to intuition, means the ambitious nature of the discovery. Uh, art, art solves problems. It is a special doctrine to use for people who want to have the ability to solve problems. Inductive heuristic argument are initial analogies. Um, Heuristic result may be useful, but should not considered as a careful look. Its reasoning is not final, although it is presented with the best and most sincere basis, but it cannot be ignored. More temporarily and reasonable only. Slide. Experience with concepts. It means, according to Immanuel Kant, an 18th century German philosopher, incorporated parallelism and rationalism in his epistemological theory and synthesized them between experience and concept, which is first perception and then imagination, understanding, takul, and concept. Truth of knowledge. In truth of knowledge, we will cover the concept of the truth of science, the truth theory of science, which is theory of correspondence, coherence theory, pragmatic theory, and the last one is religion and tradition as the balance sheet of truth. The concept of truth of knowledge. It means the concept of truth of knowledge is that there is a state of harmony and useful in a matter of scope, society and nature, and that there is a state of justice, inequality, and fairness. And the next slide, the concept of the truth knowledge. The level of truth found. Which slide is what it is? Level of truth conclusiveness. Truth is a condition. Uh, Truth is a condition, quality, or character associated with our affirmation of a fact. Truth refers to the state of existence in nature and existence. The nature and circumstances of the existences are the are existence and the wait, number three is the nature of circumstances of the existences and the existence of such facts must be in fair, just, equitable, fair, and equitable manner based on an absolute criteria of wisdom and judgment rather than relative and variable. The question in the truth of knowledge. There are four questions that can be asked. Firstly, how is hierarchy of knowledge organized? Second, how to answer the question of conflict between source of knowledge. Thirdly, is it necessary to accept that all sources of knowledge are true or selected? And number four, lastly, how to check the validity of a science from a particular source. Next, Patricia will present. Patricia, are you there? Line is
Sorry, doctor. The pictures internet connection is kind of poor.
Okay, okay. Okay.
Hello. I will present about the definition of the truth of knowledge. Hello. Can you hear me?
Okay, clear.
Um, the truth of knowledge affirmation as well as the knowledge and the fact which exists in a fair, acceptable, appropriate, and a reasonable manner based on the criteria of wisdom and absolute and final appeal of valid and valid. Um, in it is a the is a fair and considered and can be by the society. Like the um the theory of the truth of knowledge can be uh can can be said that have three theories based on the tradition of Western science. First is the correspondence theory is a theory based on the coherence between affirmation and fact, and then coherence theory is a theory based on the coherence of things in a system that has received its truth. And a pragmatic theory is a practical theory based on how it's useful for people or the society. Like the theory of correspondence, um, the truth is based on the alignment of the facts with assertions. It's about true or false based on the fact phenomenon. When the matter of of the statements are related to the technical and moral values, it could be justified as the element, alignment theory that is in the alignment in the fact. But when it related to ethics and the moral values, the principles of the alignment will hard to maintain. Next, um, for the theory of coherence, it's based on the coherence of things in a system that has received in its truth. It's when it is coherent and consistent with its previous statement. This theory said that if something is compatible to people needs and it's right and proper. For example, when the law of homicide against serious criminals is fair, it's because it conforms to the wishes and circumstance for the society, and it wants that such law to be enforced. But however, when because the society change, there is no absolutely capability value. It will always change based on the society circumstance for this theory. Like for the pragmatic theory, this theory is based on something uh something that is useful to human life. When, for example, when people is praying, then people trusting the God, then it benefits to the followers, then it can be the truth based on this theory. Next, next, uh, back to the slide 51. For religion and traditions as balancing the truth of knowledge. In Islam, there is absolute truth contained in the Quran and relative truth derived from human reasoning and speculation through philosophies and positive through the science. According to Endang Saifuddin, there are three institutions of truth, which is science, philosophy, and religion. And all these three have same point. Wait, which is all finding for the in God. Also for Imam al-Ghazali, and he have defined four ways about truth. The first one is prove the science of science, then philosophy, and then batiniah, and the Sufism or Sufism. Traditions and custom of a society also in the wifi kia vậy?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, now I can hear you.
Okay, next to 54, please. The epistemology as a meaning of the function of knowledge. Truth and epistemology that focus on the theory of knowledge and everything of the knowledge can be enabled for people to think wisely and lead people to a harmonism and holistic knowledge generation. Next. Classification of knowledge. The epistemology teach us about the types of science and its classification. For example, the classification of science into human science and pure science. Like for the pure science, we have physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics, and for the social science, we have politics, economics, and law areas. In Islam, the knowledge can be classified as akli and nakli. Nakli knowledge is based on the revelation, and akli is based on the reason and experiments such as science. And Imam al-Ghazali also divides the knowledge into fardu ain and fardu kifayah. Next. The confidence on the philosophy and science and religion. Among the solutions to the current crisis in philosophy and current issue are through the integration of philosophy, science, and religion. Three of them are they are still looking for the truth, but for philosophy and knowledge, they have limits. So only religion is the absolute one, and this religion is an unchanging whole. Uh, Knowledge challenge. Here we have some challenge like the failures of science in the result of secularization and the liberalization program. Then the failure to generate knowledge. They have three states. The first is the unity between philosophy, science, and religion, and then the harmony between the knowledge of Nakli and Akli, and then the unity between the science and one more challenge is the challenge between the relationship between science, philosophy, and religion, and the abaran. Next. the challenge of knowledge, philosophies, and religion can start from the first is the knowledge refers to the human's life in daily, and then they organize this knowledge to science or science, and from this, because this science only solve problem immediately, so they need the philosophies to solve more more holistic. But this philosophy is so speculative and insecure, so we need the religion to give an absolute answer. And the last, the secularization that spreads religions lead to a system of educational dualism. Like, um, the for example, the science is science and science are just trying to solve the problem in right way, and then the philosophy is just only capable of the speculative and convincing answer, and the religion can answer question of truth that science and philosophy cannot fully answer. So religion can be the absolute and unchanged unchanged answer. Next, next, okay. For the conclusion, there is a depth here. First, one people named Hamid, he asked, what is the color of a moon in the Malaysian sky? One people answer him, yellow color. And Hamid asked again, how did you know that it was yellow color? One more people, Wang, he answered, I looked into my eyes. Then Hamid asked again, our eyes can see the sun smaller than the earth, but actually the sun is smaller than the earth. Our eyes can see the shadow under the sun, not moving, but it is really moving. Our eyes can see that the tree is stationary, but the fact is that everything on this earth is moving because the earth itself is spinning. So, what extends in Awang convinced of the which came through the eyes? Awang answered him, but everyone who saw the moon in the Malaysian flag said it was yellow. Hamid answered again, let's say all humans say that they are yellow, but do others animals agree with the human visions? There are colors that the human eyes does not look at in ultraviolet. Bees can see ultraviolet colors, but cannot distinguish between red and black. There, there may be many other colors that the human eyes doesn't see. So, not necessarily that the true colors of the moon in the Malaysian flag is yellow. Maybe it's another colors that the human eyes doesn't, and then our eyes process it to yellow. Our answer. So, how do we know true colors? Hamid answered him that this is the question of epistemology, which is the theory of science about questions of how we know the color of an object, how we know God exists, how we know one's ethnicity, how we know something is true or false, and so on. So this question is cannot be answered. But um, and we say that the moon is yellow because people in the society all believe that this color is yellow, and we say that it was yellow. So that is the truth of knowledge, that people more of the people believe that that is the truth. That's all for uh, from our team. Thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you. 4. Then we move to group 5.
Okay, doctor. Can you hear me?
Clear? Clear.
Okay. Yeah. So, hello everyone. We're Group 5, and we're going to discuss ideology. So, our group consists of me, Tarek Shagouri, SKMD Amzad Hosani, Tanwir Islam, and Muhammad Faisal. So, in this presentation, we're looking forward to elaborate on the postmodern relativism after the failure of modernism. We're looking forward to discuss the evolution and phenomena of postmodern relativism. We're looking forward to show how postmodern relativism rejected truth and human life, and we're also looking forward to analyze how religion and tradition responds to postmodern relativism. So before we start, we want to exemplify by some words of wisdom on the topic of ideology from some pretty known figures such as Adolf Hitler, Louis Althusser, and Immanuel Kant. So Adolf Hitler quoted, "Our ideology is intolerant and peremptorily demands the complete transformation of public life to its ideas." Louis Althusser quoted, "Ideology represents the imaginary relationship of individuals to their real conditions of existence." And Immanuel Kant quoted, "All our knowledge begins with senses, turns into understanding, and ends with reason. There is nothing higher than reason." Now I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Tanwir, who is going to discuss the postmodernism.
Okay, so for postmodernism, next slide. We are going to learn. Okay, so what is postmodernism? Postmodernism is a term that encompasses a wide range of developments in philosophy, film, architecture, art, and culture. Originally, a reaction to modernism refers to a lack of artistic, intellectual, or cultural thought of organized people. And postmodernism has started around 1940s, where although the exact date is unknown, and it has peaked around 60s to 70s, around that time of era. So some of the key important points or the key important points to remember is that the reaction to the failure of modernism to solve current issues unrelated to new knowledge and solving new problems. Another main point would be the postmodernists always critical to modernists. They rely too much on logocentrics, whereas man has more than logos, intellect, soul, emotion, and intuitive. Another point is the Thomas Kuhn questioned the objectivity of modern science, whereby there are another aspects that is non-rational, logical, related to psychology and sociology, humans' feelings, which are not only his own logic. Social constructivist knowledge is a contrast that related to society's feelings that has been observed to science, always thinking on how to make life easier, not only to develop knowledge that is to benefit the people. Next. So some of the general concepts of postmodernism are that life is limited to where we are right now. Concept 2 is that there is no reject of any type of big narrative. Concept 3 is that all truth depends on different cultural construct. Something true in one society do not mean it is true in others. The last concept is that skeptics towards modernity. Okay, so the basic concepts of modernism. These include that there is no reality except according to society. Good and bad. The basic concept of good and bad of postmodernism. Then there is God and gender and language. So I'm going to pass this over to my team member Hamza.
Hello, I'll talk about the comparison between modernism and postmodernism. Before I talk about this topic, I want to say another way this definition about modernism and postmodernism difference. We can say that modernism relates to sequence of culture movements that happened in the late 19th, and the postmodernism another way is the both movement that developed in 20th century and focused only about the philosophy, the arts, the architecture, criticism. So now I can say the difference between them. Modernism is big narrative, with modernity. Uh, Family is a nucleus, and originality and authenticity and uses of time. This is about the modernism. And on the other hand, postmodernism, we can say that PT narrative is colonism, alternative family, gay, lesbian, LGBT, and niches and group identity. For the professional case, again, if you compare the modernism and postmodernism, we can say that traditional religion, high culture society, high culture architecture, Chicago, Picasso, Tabo. This is all about the modernism. And the other hand, postmodernism, we can say, is no clear ideology, integrate society, new age religion, high and low culture, architecture, Les Vegas, and Warhol condomen school gender globalism intention is not seriously taken into consideration. So if I talk about the method of distribution, we can look at this chart and understand that them, can you zoom the slide? Yes. Okay. Okay. Method of execution, we can see this deconstruction, relativism, pluralism, faithism. Okay. So phenomena and manifestation, we can see hyperreality, new realities, and virtual reality, pseudo realities. And relativism is the involved the phenomena is the science as a commodity, university, commercialization, and pluralism, we can say religious pluralism, LGBT, and the faithism last is consumerism, cyborg, robot. And objective we can learn from this topic is destroying all relatives, and then or maybe you can say meanings and creating new relates, and destroying or generalizing the hierarchy of reality, knowledge, and values, destroying the uniques of reality, knowledge, and the values by publishing diverse option. And the last one is speed or create a new speed or speed from this new destruction and creation. And mechanism diffusion, this is talk the Malay, so I translate is mechanism diffusion, technology, violence, drug, and the media create new relates. And the second one is technology, terrorism, drugs, and the media present reality, knowledge, and values. And the third one is technology, violence, drug, and the media the composition as a natural. And the technology, violence, drug, and the media create speed or vision of on things. Okay. Okay. Postmodernism challenges to Islamic faith and thought. Okay. If I talk about this topic, actually, it's take a long time to describe. So I want to say very shortly about this topic, about the challenge about the postmodernism in Islam. It's like I just got two philosophers, Mr. Marx and Mr. Kant. So if I tell their summary, how they challenge or how they analyze this history about Islamic, what say. So history doesn't give us a regular pattern of human struggle towards just and fair political, social, and economic state as described by Mr. Marx. On the other hand, Mr. Kant said it is also did not tell when we will be able to say that we are living in an enlightened age. This view, Mr. Marx and Mr. Kant are more related to Europe only, and Muslim world provided a socially, economically, and politically just system to the world at least 50 years in the rule of caliphs. In the period of after caliphates, to Muslim world provided most things can't ask for an enlightened age. few things in Islam say that about the women challenges is Islam women, Muslim women must educate themselves, choose an occupation and earn their livelihood on a property, choose a husband who's their husband and right to separate from their husband. And Islam, the main thing is Islam doesn't make it obligatory on women to earn for their family. However, they can earn for the family where they did not obliged to spend their earnings on the family. And mother must be respected there 3 times more than the father. And about the Islamic concept of jihad, we can say that Holy Quran that jihad can only be for the sake of eliminating injustice. It is not you fight against non-Muslim, it is fight against the injustice. This kind of challenge we can face, postmodernism in challenge. This is the main concept about this slide. So next, will be present Mr. Faisal.
Okay. First of all, what is relativism? It is the doctrine that knowledge, truth, and morality exist in relation to culture, society, or historical context and are not absolute. There are 4 main characteristics of relativism. Next. Reject universalism, do not accept general meaning on truth, good, bad, etc. Reject absolutism, do not accept graal values as absolute values of goodness, truth, bad, and all that. Reject objectivism, cognitive values, ethics, aesthetic, etc. Values are not free from human thinking. Human thinks differently on values. Next. As for relative domain, a relative meaning of something, a relative meaning of truth, a relative meaning of metaphysics, a relative meaning of culture, relative meaning of values and society, relative meanings of values amongst individual, relative meaning of aesthetics. Those are the domain of relativism. And there are several implications of postmodern relativism, which are religion and culture, denying absolute reality and truth, contrary to religion, which is absolute truth, which is also the same as stated in the meaning of the relativism, raises doubts, and relativism rejections absolute truth as self-defeating. In order to, as for conclusions, it was philosophers who started philosophy. Now philosophy has been utilized in all fields and everybody uses. Philosophy in their daily life, truth is absolute and based on permanent truth. Religion, moral, and ethics. And that's all from us. Thank you, Doctor. Everyone.
Okay, thank you. 5. Short presentation, eh? Okay, before continue, understand how to
Did you all
Okay. Did you all understand how to make the proposal for final assignment? You already did?
I look through it, Doctor. I'm still reviewing.
Still review it, but you know you can understand how to make the.
We only use PowerPoint, right, Doctor, to make the proposal. No need like
Yes.
Word.
And then the proposal you will submit to the e-learning. I already make the blog for you to submit at e-learning. I will share to you. Wait, I will share to you this one.
Crash Course Philosophy is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace.
Phineas Gage. Metal rod almost as tall as he was when 1948. A freak accident.
Crash Course.
Okay, I will share to you a video so that you can. Okay, I will share to you the video. Share the watch it. Okay, let's look at this on philosophy. I hope you all can hear.
Philosophy is brought. Crash Course Philosophy is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace. Share your passion with the world.
On September 13th, 1848, a freak accident caused an explosion that drove an iron rod straight into the skull of a worker named Phineas Gage. A metal rod almost as tall as he was went through his skull, and he didn't die. But the Phineas from before the accident and the one who lived after it didn't seem to have a lot in common personality-wise. The Phineas with no hole in his brain was a proper, hard-working gentleman, and the Phineas with the injured brain was sort of a belligerent jerk. Phineas's brain was changed and his personality changed too. This misfortune has provided lots of fodder for researchers of psychology and neurology, but the case of Phineas Gage holds lessons for philosophers too. It provides us with some rare hard evidence that a part of us that's historically been thought of as non-physical, our personality, is actually directly affected by what happens to us physically. Which raises the question, where does our mind reside? Now, not a lot of contemporary scientists would be all that surprised that an injury like the one Gage suffered could cause such a radical change. That's because the dominant view held in much of Western science is what we call reductive physicalism. This is the view that the world is made only of physical stuff, including us. By this logic, everything about me and you could be explained in terms of our bodies, our brains, hormones, and neurotransmitters. So if everything about Phineas's personality could be explained in terms of his brain, it's no shock that a radical change in his brain would bring about a radical change in his personality. This same belief is at work when a psychiatrist prescribes antidepressants to a patient. Change the patient's brain chemistry, change the patient's mood. Now, physicalism may be the default scientific position, but remember way back in episode 5, our old friend René Descartes introduced us to cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Descartes believed that he could cast doubt on the existence of his body, but not the existence of his mind. The fact that he could doubt one but not the other told him he must be made of two different kinds of stuff. This view, known as substance dualism, says the world is made of both physical stuff and mental stuff. Substance dualists say that minds are a separate non-physical substance that cannot be reduced to or explained in terms of physical stuff like brains. And in this view, some things like God are pure mind and other things like rocks are pure matter. But humans, well, we're kind of special. We're the only kind of thing that combines both stuffs into one being, both body and mind. What's more, these two substances appear to interact with each other inside of us. This is called interactionism. When I make up my mind to do something, I have the power to compel my body to do as I please, to get up off the couch and make myself a nice PB&J, for example. What's more, my mental states seem to have the ability to affect my physical states, even against my will. You ever notice how many people who are grieving or under a lot of stress, for example, often get physically sick? Likewise, our bodies also appear to be able to affect our minds, like when you're so hungry you just can't focus on what your teacher is saying at all, or how a pure physical pleasure, like having a good cuddle with your cat, can pull you out of a bad mood. Interactionists say that what's going on with these experiences is that our two substances, minds and bodies, are interacting with each other. But if you think about it, this is actually a pretty puzzling proposition. How can a purely mental thing have any effect on a purely physical thing? The puzzle of how minds and bodies can interact with each other is known as the mind-body problem. This is the problem that makes us wonder, how can my body have a separate entity called a mind lurking inside of it, controlling it and being controlled by it? What would tether my mind to this body in particular? Why couldn't my mind just go running off on its own or take a dip into other bodies to see what it's like in there? Descartes' answer, frankly, was not all that satisfying. He said that the mind is tethered to the body at the pineal gland, located at the base of the brain, and that all mind-body interactions are filtered through that portal, if you will, between the mind and the body. But that really only pushes the problem back without solving it, since the pineal gland is part of the physical body. Many modern philosophers of mind, seeing no way to solve the mind-body problem, have felt compelled to abandon substance dualism altogether. Some are happy to be physicalists, but others are convinced that there are some parts of the human experience that simply can't be boiled down to brains. To see what they think is being left out, let's head over to the thought bubble for some flash philosophy. Contemporary Australian philosopher Frank Jackson presents us with the thought experiment of Mary, a woman who has spent her entire life in a black and white room, learning everything via a black and white television. While locked in this room, Mary becomes a neurophysicist specializing in the science of color. She learns everything there is to know about light, optics, the physics of color, and how it affects our sensory organs, but she has never seen it for herself. So here's the question. When Mary finally walks out of the room and sees color for the first time, has Mary learned something new? Jackson devised this thought experiment as an argument against reductive physicalism. Because, Jackson says, the qualitative experience of seeing a color, say red, isn't the same as knowing facts about red. If everything could be explained in terms of the physical, then when Mary finally saw red, it wouldn't have contributed to her understanding at all. It wouldn't have told her anything that she didn't already know. Thanks, thought bubble. What's missing from a physicalist account, many argue, is what are known as qualia, instances of subjective first-person experience. Qualia are what it feels like to stub your toe, or take the first bite out of a slice of pizza, or to learn that you have been deeply betrayed by a trusted friend. It's what Mary is said to gain when she steps out of the room and sees color for the first time. Physicalists respond to thought experiments like Jackson's by arguing that they beg the question. Begging the question, you'll recall, is a philosophical fallacy in which the premises assume the conclusion they're supposed to be proving. Jackson's thought experiment assumes that Mary learns something new when she steps out of the room. But if physicalism is true, and if she really knows everything physical about color, then of course seeing it for herself isn't going to add to her understanding of it in any way. Now, physicalists argue that their case is making progress as we learn more and more about the physical processes of the mind. Well, that's not really satisfying because we want an answer, not a promissory note. But to be fair, physicalists have only been at work for a few decades, while dualists have been bashing bashing their heads against the mind-body problem for centuries. But not everybody falls cleanly into either the physicalist or the dualist camp. The Mary case and other arguments like it convince some people that they have to maintain their commitment to dualism even though they can't see a solution to the mind-body problem. Some of those people adopt a view called epiphenomenalism. This view says that physical states can give rise to mental states, but mental states can't affect physical states. So by this thinking, your beliefs, desires, and temperaments do exist, but they have no power over anything physical about you. Which might sound kind of weird and unconvincing. But then there's contemporary British philosopher Colin McGinn, who advocates for a view called Mysterianism. This says the question of consciousness is unsolvable by human minds. It's not that McGinn thinks we're dummies. He thinks humans are natural knowers, just give us a problem and we can figure it out. But not this. The reason, he says, is that our brains are compartmentalized. The way we understand our mind is through reflection. It's deeply personal and subjective. But the way we understand our brains and bodies is objective and verifiable. And those two modes of understanding just don't mix. No amount of reflection could lead to any claims about neurons firing, and no amount of empirical research is going to give rise to what it's like to see color through someone else's eyes. Our brains just don't have a compartment that can piece together those different modes of evidence. The mind-body problem hasn't been solved and physicalism hasn't been proven because both of those things require brains to do something they can't do. So what do you think? Is your mind a separate substance riding around in your body until it dies? Can the complicated thing that is you, that thinks and feels and desires and hurts, be reduced to a purely physical thing? Did Mary learn something new? Is it possible to know? Well, that is up to your mind to figure out. Today, we talked about theories of where the mind resides. We learned about reductive physicalism, substance dualism, and Mysterianism. And next time, we're going to think about these issues some more with the help of some of my favorite kinds of potential persons. Robots. This episode of Crash Course Philosophy is made possible by Squarespace. Squarespace is a way to create a website, blog, or online store for you and your ideas. Squarespace features a user-friendly interface, custom templates, and 24/7 customer support. Try Squarespace at squarespace.com/crashcourse for a special offer. Squarespace. Share your passion with the world. Crash Course Philosophy.
Association with PBS Digital Studios. You can head over to their channel and check out a play.
Okay. Okay, that's the video I want you to also see regarding the source of knowledge. That's the brain, the physical. That's combined with each other. The mind and body. Philosophy. What we can understand from the combination of body and mind to our decision making and so on in life. Okay. So we have another chapter is the topic chapter 8, decolonization. It's about the decolonization, and later from what your clique has presented is about the ideology and epistemology. Epistemology is the source of knowledge and how we got knowledge, and like the fallacy and so on. Okay, the true knowledge and the false knowledge. That's how we combine, and then the about the ideology in the current world. We all have many ideologies, so that's some other ideology you can search and you may discuss in your final examination. If you choose on communism, so you can discuss about that ideology in your final assignment. Okay, never mind. Okay, so you all have already done the article review or not? I think not. I think not yet, right?
Not yet, Doctor.
Not yet. So okay. So I want to show you okay what I have choose one article, okay, interesting to analyze. So this one I will give you after you finish with your um proposal and poster making. After you're done with this, I will give you that last assignment, the article review. Okay, this one, this is the article. Yeah, put that. Wait, okay, right. Okay, this one. Okay, this is the article that I've choose for you, for all of you. So I need to analyze. I need you all to analyze this topic, science as truth, by Peter Atkins. Okay. So I will put this in the I will put this into the e-learning. So I will give some instruction on how you make the article review. So after you finish with your proposal, okay, next week, and then the poster making, and lastly we will do the article review. So you can analyze the topic science as truth. And first you must identify. I will give you a brief. First you must identify the problems, and then the issue, and later maybe you can choose 1, 2, 3 some issue in this paper, and then lastly you do the conclusion. That's all for the article review. So you will analyze this whole article, about 6 pages. Okay. I tell you because I tell you now because so that we can so that we will not able to be we will not forget this final or last assignment. Okay, that's all for now. Any more question?
Assalamualaikum, Doctor. Assalamualaikum,
Hello.
Doctor.
Hello.
Sorry for interrupt you. May I know when is the due date for the proposal and the poster making assignment?
Okay. Okay. The date for proposal making. So you have to send the proposal not later than 12th of June. Okay.
So for proposal is 12th of June, right, Doctor?
Okay. 12th of June. Proposal. 12th June. Proposal. So you all must submit in e-learning before due date. And then for which week we are now? 14, 13. for this semester. For this semester, we are currently in the which week? Week 10 or 8 or 9?
I think week 10 or 11.
Okay, so if you are currently on the 10 week, okay, so we have another 3 weeks to carry on with the assignment. Okay, maybe we can finish earlier. So 12th June for a proposal, and 19th of June for proposal making, for poster making. So you will submit the proposal not later than 19th of June. I already put in the chat. So then the last one, we will do the article review, and we can do it on the we will do it in class. Maybe the final assignment we will do on 22 of June. We will do in 20 of June, last assignment, article review. We will do it in class. So I will give you 2 hours, and then you may submit after that. Okay, clear?
Clear.
Okay. Wait, I want to distribute the QR code. So if you have any question regarding the proposal, you can refer to the e-learning, or otherwise you can ask me to check before you submit, or if you're confident enough, you can submit the proposal to the e-learning. No worries. Okay. Any more question? Anything else you don't understand? Okay, I already distribute the attendance in the e-learning, so that you can refer to the e-learning. You can refer to the WhatsApp group. Okay, here the attendance. Okay. Okay, if you don't have anything else, so we can dismiss. So I hope you can submit the proposal and the proposal and poster before due date. Remember, before 19, before the proposal before 12, and the poster before 19, and on 22 of June we will have the last assignment is about article review on science as truth. Okay, that's all for this session.
Doctor?
Yes?
We have any test exam about philo?
Test exam?
Yes.
Test exam about what? We don't have a final examination.
Okay, doctor.
We don't have final examination. So the article review will be your final. I tell you, the article review will be your final test. Like it's kind of a final test. I will give you two hours in class, so you will do the final assignment as your final test. So you will do and send back to me what you have done in the article review. Okay. Okay, SPR. What about test 2 exam? No test exam. So I have changed the what we call the test to the article review. So we just do the article review. Okay, clear? Okay, anything else? Okay, if there are not any. Okay, if we don't have anything, so I hope you can submit the assignment. Okay, you can submit the assignment. You can do the you can do it well. Okay, I will check every what we call every phase of it, the proposal and the poster making. Okay. Good evening, doctor. Do we have to do video for proposal? No, you don't have to do video, but in class you will have to present. Okay, that's why I want you to finish earlier so that we can you can present, and I will I will record it, and then I will put in the e-learning so that you can watch it as your presentation. Okay, I will update you. I will give you instruction if you don't understand. But the first one we have to have the poster first, so that after that later we will do the presentation or the final test and so on. Okay, make sure you finish your proposal and poster first. Okay, thank you all. We meet again next week. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good afternoon.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doctor.
doctor.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, doctor.
Class, you may ask in the WhatsApp group.